Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Mothers in Law. I am your host, Carrie. And if you're a working mom who's ever tried to juggle clients, kids, and this constant feeling that something's slipping, we have an episode here for you today. I am joined by the amazing Amanda Hill. She is the founder of Hill Health Law Group in Austin, Texas, and she's built an incredible career in healthcare law over the past decades. First, as general counsel for large physician groups, where she navigated very complex regulatory landscapes and million-dollar transaction, and now she's running her own boutique firm that helps doctors navigate everything from partnership agreements to compliance audits to the intricate business side of modern medicine. What makes her story so compelling isn't just her legal expertise, but it's how she's intentionally crafted a practice that really serves her client deeply, building on amazing relationship skills and honoring her priorities as a mother. So she's someone that really has demonstrated sustainable success, but it's not about just working harder, but smarter, building systems and relationships that really make a huge difference, not only as she's professionally pursuing her dreams, but also she's creating a family life that is just as successful. So, beyond these impressive resumes and client wins, she's a mom who's figured out how to lead with grace, build a thriving business, and let go of the myth of perfection along the way. So, I'm so excited to hear from Amanda and have her share her wisdom that can help all of us feel better about being great attorneys and great moms.
Welcome to The Mothers-in-Law, a podcast exploring the demanding world of being a mother and a lawyer. Join my mom, Carrie Fogliani, as she shares real-life stories and practical tips to help you find joy and balance in your life. Let's embark on this journey of community and support together. This show is sponsored by General Counsel West, a law firm that supports companies transforming healthcare comprised of mothers and fathers practicing law.
Welcome, Amanda.
Well, thank you. That makes me sound very fancy. I'm excited to be here.
We're
It's
so happy to
it's
have
really
you
an
here. And
honor.
oh my goodness. Well, this is, we were sharing that it's not every day that we get to sit and really reflect on our journey from this vantage point. So I do feel like there's so much that you can also share with us from a professional perspective, but we're going to do our best today to really zone in on what this experience has been like to be a mom and an attorney. So I'd love to start out just learning a little bit more about your professional path and sort of when children arrived on the scene and you added that to your
Sure.
resume.
Sure. Well, my story is so unique, and I hope that anyone listening, I hope that you resonate on this because it doesn't have to follow a linear path, right? Mine did not. And I'm not alone, and that every lawyer starts out thinking they're going to do one thing, and then they end up pivoting, as you well know, Carrie, from your own
Yep.
story. So when I went to law school, I mean, I was like a type A Southern girl. Like, this is the thing. I'm going to go and be a prosecutor. I was like legally blonde, I'm here. And I'm going to go be a federal judge and no one's going to stop me. And I'm going to put criminals behind bars. I know, whatever, all the dreams that I had. I was on law review. I was like, I'm going to go get them. I'm going to change the world. And, my career has taken such different shifts over the past 20 years that I never dreamed that I wouldn't take back. But when I started, I had that vision. And then the first job that I got, I could find, to be honest, because we were stuck in a town. My husband at the time was going to a different law school in a different town. So I kind of had to find a job where he was. And I thought, well, if I can't be a U.S. attorney on day one of my legal career, because that's how, nutsy I was, then I'll just work for a federal agency. So I went to the VA. And that was the reason. It sounded more prestigious. Like, that's literally why I wanted to work there. It just sounded better than working for a law firm. And so I sort of dove into this new job. And guess what? There was no job opening. It's not like I applied for this job. I just, I saw a posting for like a 10-year lawyer. And I thought, they have jobs. They have lawyers that work there. I can figure it out. So I just go balls in, with all my little tiny resume. I had no resume. I was a dumb little brand new graduate. And I think they just had pity on me, to be honest. They were like, did you not realize that this job was 10 years experience? And I was all, how hard can it be? I have guts, and they were like, wow, okay. So I think they were surprised that I came in so hot, but they were wowed somehow by my naivete. I think maybe they thought they could beat me down. I don't know. But they gave me a job. It was an entry level job that they didn't even have posted, but I got it somehow. And that led my life in a different direction, right? I
Wow.
started reading medical records. I started realizing, oh, this is kind of interesting. How do you defend the doctor that they're claiming did something wrong? Um, so that career journey was interesting. And then I had a short foray on a television show, which is kind of fun to talk about. I know.
Wow.
And so
Hey,
after that, yeah, I was on first one of the early reality television shows out there
which
called
one? We can talk about that.
The Apprentice. Remember The
No,
Apprentice?
yes, of course I remember the Apprentice.
Yes,
I have
I was
friends that
on.
worked on that show. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
yeah, I was on The Apprentice. It was the one with Martha Stewart.
Oh my
So I was obsessed with. Everyone called me like, "Oh, you're just like Martha Stewart," because I threw big parties and I love to cook and decorate. So I went to New York. I went on the show. It was
wow.
fantastic, fun experience. And I thought at that point, well, what am I doing at the VA? I'm going to go do different things. So anyway, I just kept kind of stumbling forward, following sort of a general hunch that this was the right thing. And so by this point, I was pregnant with my first child and I really
Okay.
wanted to have a big step up in my career. So I was sitting in a doctor's office with poison ivy. That's how that second job started, sitting with poison ivy. And I thought to myself, huh, I wonder who the lawyer is at this big group.
Oh,
So I called him up, cold called him, talked to somebody, 3 or 4 random people. And I was like, who's your lawyer? And they were like, oh, we have this firm and that firm. I'm like, well, that's dumb. Why don't you have an in-house lawyer? You're big enough. Why don't you have one? And they were like, well, we've never seen it as a priority before because we have these great relationships with these lawyers. And I'm like, well, you haven't met me.
oh.
So we set up a meeting and I no, it's dorky. Carrie, it's
No, it's not.
humiliating.
These are
It's
like the dreams
embarrassing.
coming true. I love this. No, people need more of this out there. If you're listening, like, because a lot of people have a
Yes,
voice
right.
that's like this, what you're saying, but they quiet that voice. But to
Don't
go in
do
and
it.
pursue the dream,
Yeah.
don't shut that girl
Yeah.
up. Like, I
Don't
think
shut it
that's
down.
awesome.
So I went in there with my brochure, and I'm not kidding. It was like a threefold, like I was at Kinko's, like making a. So I presented a brochure of like why you should hire Amanda
Oh
Hill
my
as your
God, this is
general
awesome.
counsel, and they again were probably like, who is this person? And so I kind of wheeled and dealed. I was like, I'll tell you what, if you let me be your general counsel, what I will do for you is, and I didn't realize early on that I was starting to hone my negotiating skills.
Mhm,
Just even
mhm.
by getting these jobs, I
Yes.
started thinking, right, what could I do for you? What do you look for? And like, what benefit can I give you? And I'm going to be that person, right? So I
Yeah.
started saying, I'm going to train your doctors. I will do all of their professional training. I will listen to your angry patients and I will take
That's a
that over.
that part. I mean, I love that. Is
Uh-huh.
this is a place where you were the director of patient services as well as their
Yes,
lawyer? Is that the place?
yes,
That
yes. That's the place.
okay. When you mentioned that, I was listening and I thought I was blown away by that because I've always wanted to be that person that gets to follow along people and find out why they're not getting successful results because they're not being nice. Like that had to be a very
It
interesting
was so
experience.
great. And I got to follow doctors around like during the day with a clipboard, and we would say,
Yeah.
like, "Are you okay with me doing a day in the life of the doctor story?" And the patients were like, "Okay." But and then I would figure out why their patient satisfaction scores were low. It was the
So
best
great.
training ground, right?
It's
Because I
so
learned like
smart.
why patients
Yes.
are angry and why the doctors
Right.
are screwing this up. So that, of course, just completely the trajectory of my career changed so much.
Yeah.
I started becoming, I didn't care about really being a U.S. attorney. I really wanted to focus more on this new world I was involved in.
Yeah.
So anyway, I had my first child in that job, right? And then my second child, and the second kid came, and I was like, okay, this is a lot. I mean, he's wearing basically 2 jobs, right? I was a patient director,
Yes.
and I was trying to handle this, and I was doing all their CME. And I didn't just do the CME. I was like, we're going to have a blowout party, and it's going to be epic, and there's going to be a cake, and there's going to
Those are
be
Martha Stewart
balloons.
moments. That's
Yeah,
Martha
right.
Stewart moments of
Yes.
training.
So I
That's
had Martha
awesome.
party. Yeah. So I would
Yes.
do like I would host these big group things for physicians. I think one of them was called the Physicians Academy,
Oh
and
my
I
gosh,
was
I
the
love
like
this.
headmaster, and I pretended like it was like a college, and it was very fancy, and every module of the day. I mean, of course, it was very packed with education for these doctors, but we had like like a care package, like they were in finals at the end of the day where
I
they had
love
snacks. And
that.
it was just so fun. And they let
Yes.
me be me. And I think that was the most beautiful thing ever, because not all jobs I've had are like that, where you can't just be you. They're like, get in your box, do your job,
Right.
sorry.
Especially as
But
lawyers, like being able to be
yeah,
authentic as an attorney. And especially, I mean, I'm a lot like you, like everything you're saying, I'm absolutely on board and would love to go to
yeah,
your academy. But it's not common where that's embraced and
that's
supported. So you
right.
were so
That's
lucky
right.
so early, quite honestly, in your career to
I
have that
know. I am
backing.
very lucky about that. And I mean, there were times that I remember thinking, ooh, I overstepped, or I think that was too much. I need to tone it down. And that's natural. You find your wings. But I remember at one point I was in the C suite, and I put these little sticks of gum on everybody's door with like a note. I mean, it's really silly, and
Love this
people are all
stuff.
going to die laughing. But I was like, let's all stick together. I don't know. It was just something ridiculous,
I
like we
love
would
it.
do for our kids. But I was doing it for,
Yes.
like, here, the CFO
Yes.
of
But
this major company. And I think they, bless their heart, they just looked at me like, look at her. She's so dumb and cute, but we'll
no, but I
just
think
put
they
up with
love
her.
it. But I have to say, like, so
So,
in our firm, my brother works with us, okay, which
uh
is
huh.
always an interesting dynamic. And on
Right.
a call, I was kind of similarly sharing something that was personal, that was trying to motivate people in a unique way. And afterwards, I called him because I can, and I said, "Oh,
Yeah.
I go, was I too much? Was that too much? Was that?" He's like, "Carrie,
Hmm.
everybody's used to you," and I'm like,
Yeah,
"Oh,
that's right. That's right. They get
so it's
used to
okay.
you.
It's
Yeah,
okay."
that's
But
right.
that's amazing. So
But
you were
yeah, so
there
I
for how
left that
long?
about 5 years.
Okay.
And then I thought, okay, I really, in my heart, I know this is, I'm so fun to talk about my personal side on this podcast versus all the career. But in my heart, I wanted to write books. So
Oh,
I've always been a writer. I've always dreamed about being a novelist and writing books, and that being really important. I've always had a blog. I always wrote journals. So, I find my husband at the time was about to make partner at his law firm. And I thought, you know what, if I'm not going to do it now, when?
mhm.
So I really, really wanted to make the writing dream a reality. And so I decided to quit and be a writer. Yeah. So I quit. They had a big party, like, goodbye,
Oh,
Amanda, we'll miss you. And I was like, I'm a writer now, and so and I'm juggling these two kids, that
right.
I like,
How old
and
were they at that time?
gosh, I mean, one and like
Oh,
six,
okay.
five, they
Little.
were
Okay.
little. After my son was born, I worked for a little while, and I was like, I can't deal with the breast
Oh,
pumping and this and that.
okay.
It was just all the things, right? It's too much. But also, I'm really ambitious, as you can tell, and it's
Mhm.
really hard for me. So I was kind of like a trad wife before that was popular.
Okay.
There was no
Mhm.
Instagram, but
Yeah.
I was all about, like, I'm going to have bread baking Mondays, and like I'm going to have a garden, and we got chickens, and we had all the things, and I was so excited, and like, this is our life now, and like, I'm such a good wife and mother,
Mhm.
and then my world fell apart,
Mm.
and I got a divorce,
Oh,
and it was heartbreaking, and I didn't
oh,
expect it, and it came out of
yeah.
nowhere. But I was like, as a lot of moms, and a ton of your listeners, I'm sure, that have gone through a divorce, it's like, but I did everything right, or that's what I was thinking at the time, right?
Yeah.
Like, how could this be happening to me? I was like, I'm baking bread, for
I
God's
know.
sakes,
I know.
or whatever,
I
and it's
totally
like,
understand that.
yeah, so
I'm
it
doing
was
all the
really,
things.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm being a great mom. Like, what?
Yes.
So I was really, really heartbroken.
Oh, I'm
Anyway,
sorry.
I managed to get that first, but I should try, they all kind of happened at the same time. But I got my first book written. So
Okay.
I got a novel, and I was trying to get an agent and get a publishing deal. And then my world sort of fell apart with this divorce. So I was forced to go back to work.
Oh,
And lawyering makes more money than writing, turns out.
yes.
So I went and got a different job at a nonprofit health organization, which was a
Okay.
great learning curve as well. And wasn't the same, but because now I'm juggling two small kids, and
Right.
ex, and all this toxicity, and I was just spinning around. And every day I would just, I would go to Starbucks. I talk about this in another book that I wrote, which is someday going to be published.
Ooh.
Every day I'd go to Starbucks, and I would pay for the person behind me. That was my ritual
Mm,
every day. And I thought to myself, if I'm lucky enough to have a job, if
yeah.
I'm lucky enough to go to Starbucks and pay $5 or whatever it was for coffee, I can afford the car behind me. And to this day, I've never gone through a Starbucks without paying for the car behind me,
Amazing.
because it makes me so, in fact, I just want to cry just talking about it. Like, it makes me so happy to bring that tiny amount of joy to someone when they didn't expect it. Like, to me, that's like just giving yourself a gift.
No,
So
that is
every day I
huge.
just kept going, like, I'm going to make it through this day. And
Yeah.
it was a horrible 2 years because I had tiny kids. I had a babysitter. I was traveling an hour commute. It's like I took the job that I could find. This no longer is Amanda spitting out
Yeah. Yeah.
threefold things. Now it's like I
Totally.
took the job that I had to take, right,
Yeah.
for my survival. So and they wasn't a great fit. The boss and I didn't really get. There's a lot of things that I was like, oh gosh, I don't know I've never been in this position before. And so when you're type A, like we are, and you're successful and you hit roadblocks, I mean, you just kind of have to figure out how to get over them. And
I love
by
though
this
that
point,
you sharing though. I think that practice that you put into place, your generosity practice during those hardest times, like, because a lot of people feel so overwhelmed with all the things you just
oh
shared
yeah,
that you were going through at that time.
right,
And the fact that you had the wherewithal, quite honestly, I just want to pause and say thank you for all the people that you paid for. But I also think showing your kids, showing all of us here that there's that one small thing we can do to lighten our load a little bit or lighten our heart, give us hope in that generosity. I mean, that
right.
practice is like something very powerful. I mean, I know you say it like, oh, this is just what I do, but for everyone that is in a difficult spot, finding something kind to do for others that gives you that fulfillment and joy, like that might have been something that helped sustain you through all those challenges.
For sure. Yeah, thank you for saying that. And I do, I'm not joyful all the time, right? This isn't
Mm.
like some toxic positivity, like, well, just get,
Yeah.
as my best friend's mom said, just get glad in the same pants you get mad in,
Oh my God.
and that, that is not real. Okay.
Yeah. That's
Let's all
tough.
tone that down. I mean, I have gone through so many hard things in my
Mm-hmm.
life, and you get to the point, right? So by this point, when I've gone through a divorce and I've got these two little kids and I have this job that's difficult, right? I had already gotten through cancer. I thought I'd already faced my hard thing. Okay. I
Mm-hmm.
had ocular melanoma in my left eye, so I don't see in my left eye. I've had
Wow.
lots of surgeries and lasers and radiation. So I'd gotten through cancer. I was scared that it would metastasize, or all
Mm.
the angst of a major cancer. And then, when my daughter was born, as a lot of you may relate, right, there was a complication. So I had a horrible hospital stay after her birth, which is a whole nother story, which we could chat about.
Yeah.
But my point is, like, I almost died a couple of times before I even got to this point, right? So it's not like this is my first hard challenge.
Right. Right.
So when I was in the hospital after my daughter was born, can I just take a minute to focus on that
Yes.
before we get
Yes.
forward? So all I wanted to do was be a mom, right? I wanted to be that perfect wife, be that perfect mom. Everybody says that, like, all I ever wanted was to have children. I relate to that,
Yeah.
very deeply. That was
Same.
in my core. That was in my whole being, was to be a mother. So I finally, and nothing, no holds barred. Like, I didn't have a piece of feta cheese, Carrie. I didn't drink
Oh,
unpasteurized juice.
oh,
Like, I was
wow. You
hardcore.
were in it.
Like,
Okay.
I was in it. I was going to be the best mom and do all the
Oh,
things and follow all the rules. And so her cord was wrapped around, and they had to do
mm,
an emergency C-section. And that's not a unique story. What's unique is that 3 days after I got home with this beautiful baby that I was going to breastfeed for a long time, and I had all these dreams, I started to get stomach pains that turned into a 911 call that sent me to the hospital. And I spent almost a month in the
oh,
hospital. And when I got the medical records, I'm actually writing a memoir. So I looked back at my medical records recently, and it was weird to read the records now as a health lawyer that I read all the
hmm,
time about myself.
yeah.
And the
Hmm.
words that they used were, in the discharge summary was, her medical course was very stormy. And I thought that was interesting. That was the phrase. It was very stormy. I thought,
Stormy.
well, that was the truth.
Yeah.
So what happened is I
Mm.
got a staph infection inside of my abdomen, and I ended up getting a really bad infection, and I got septic, which
Oh
is
my
pretty
gosh.
much, life
Yeah.
threatening. And so I didn't think I'd make it. Right. I mean, that third week when they were like, we've given you all the vancomycin we can give, right? I mean, there's just nothing more we can do. It was a truly come to Jesus moment where I was like,
Yeah.
what is my life going to look like now? I have
Mm.
birthed this child. I don't know if I'll go home to her. All the work that I've done seemed insignificant, right? All the
Right.
legal training, all of that seemed worthless. All I wanted to do was just go home. My
Yeah.
only singular goal was like, I want to be healed and I want to go home. So that changes you, right?
Of
And so
course.
you pile cancer, you pile near death, you pile all this stuff on, and then you're in this job that you never anticipated, and you're in a world and a landscape you do not recognize. And yeah, you pay for that person. You do because you have to survive. You have to
Right.
find any tiny joy that you can that day.
Yeah.
Sometimes it was just listening to NPR and getting my cortisol levels down and just trying to get
Yeah.
to the job in one piece. So anyway, 2 years, I made it 2 years because I had in my head that if you don't work somewhere for 2 years, like you'll never get
Uh-huh.
another job, or,
That's so old
that
school. I'm
fictional.
the same way.
That's old
Yeah.
school. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I, like, 2 years to the day, right? I was like, I have to leave this job for my mental health. I was crying every day on the way home. I was
Oh.
so miserable. I would call the nanny, I was a single mom at this point, and say, hi, it's me again. Do you think you could put him through the bath? Because I'm going to be
Mm.
late. There's another thing.
Yeah.
They won't let me out
Yeah.
of her. I have a board meeting. And so I was getting home at, nighttime. My kids were like
Right.
sleeping on her couch. I mean, it was ridiculous. So I was like, this is not the life that I will live.
Yeah.
And I had no idea, what was next. But I
Yeah.
knew that I had to be more for these babies, that I worked so hard to birth, you know.
I know. I
So
know.
I ended up quitting that job, which was a beautiful day. I'll never forget the feeling of just taking that resignation letter, just sliding it across
Going
his
for it.
desk. I'm out. Did I have a clue? Sorta, not much.
Okay.
So that's when I started my own law practice at that point,
Wow.
out
So
of sheer necessity.
that transition really
Yeah.
helped you formulate what is now like a super successful
Yeah, thriving
firm
practice,
where
which came
not
out
that
of
you should,
absolute necessity.
right. And honestly, not that you want to write a thank you note to that miserable environment, but it was definitely a launching pad that helped you find a different way and a better way
Oh, I
for your
I
hope.
actually do mentally think about writing a thank you note. I mean, as stupid as it sounds, it's like I'm so grateful that that
Yeah.
job was so miserable for me that I had felt no other choice. And every time that I deal a lot with doctors and employment law and changing jobs, and I'm like, consider it a gift, because
Yeah.
this obviously is not a good fit for you. And there will be something else, even if you have to bust a door down and make it. You
Yeah.
will find something that works better for you. So when I started my firm, I was just like, I don't know, I guess I'll just go to lunch and, generate some work. Is that how you do this? I don't know. I
Yeah.
wasn't
I don't even
trained in
know.
that,
Yeah.
I don't know. So I went to, like, I was like, I just happened to be in the area. I was cold calling. I was just going to lunch with every doctor that I could find, every referral. I just so happened to be there by their office for coffee. How about we meet? I mean, hustle, hustle, hustle. And I got one, and then two, and then five, and then 20, and then 1,000. So it just grew, and I'm grateful for that. But I mean, I think that to your audience thing, it's like, how did I juggle? It's hard to juggle, right? It's hard to
Oh,
juggle entrepreneurship and doing all this, plus your school calls, and they're like, oh, they have a fever, and you're like, what? You know,
right.
so that was tough. I mean, that's there's moments where I look back and I'm like, I don't know how. Like, I'm sure you feel the same way. I don't know how I did that year. I don't. That was such a blur. But one thing that I think I really, really want to share with other moms, especially young moms, is that, they always say pick your battles and not let things go. And, those are like platitudes that I don't know if people realize, like, what does that mean? Because
Yeah.
you feel guilty if you can't go to all the things they want you to and
Totally.
all the performances or whatever. Well, I decided that I would pick one thing. I picked one thing and I knocked it out of the park. And that
Yeah.
was the Christmas party.
Okay.
I was the Christmas party mom. So what happened is every year I would say, because I love throwing parties. I will sign up for the Christmas party, and I will make this the best Christmas party this third grade class has ever seen, or whatever.
I
And
love
so
it.
I was like, I got a team. I would get a team. People would sign up. We would divide up the work. Every year had a different theme. So for a decade, 12 years, I had every Christmas party theme you could buy. One year was all peppermint. One year was plaid. One year, whatever. And so I would have all the decor, and I would make a mural for the wall that had the class names, and we
Oh,
would have
wow.
crafts and all everything would go together. And I spent a long time working on it. And man, my kids were excited about that
It's
Christmas
so
party that
good.
their mom put together, right? And then the rest of the year, I was paper plate mom. I was
Oh,
Venmo mom. I was like,
okay.
what do I need to do to give y'all money so you figure this stuff out? Like, I don't have
Right.
time for all this. But I picked that one thing and I did it
It's
well. Because
it's so smart.
otherwise, you just do little all the year and you're bitter and you're resentful and you're like, I feel like I can't do it all. And then when the
And
kids
you
get,
did something visible to your kids. That's the other
yes,
part that I really
yes,
think people miss. And I, God bless all the non-working moms that are doing all this behind the scene work. I love you and I appreciate it. But I have limited time with my kids anyways. And so doing something that's so present that they see you in that space and
yes,
in the doing, it's especially important. I really advise a lot of the moms that I talk to, like, go in the class for 1 hour a week versus being,
yes.
I mean, so I love that. So your kids, I mean, now when they look back, I would love it if they ever share about how was
Oh,
that,
that'd be fun. Oh,
you
they
know?
love it. They joke about, well, okay, you make a good point, which is there's so many moms that did so much more than I did behind the scenes. And bless them for that because the school doesn't run, right, without
Totally.
all
And they
those people working
can.
hard. And I feel
Yeah.
kind of selfish that I went in and did the big thing. But thank
But
you. Thank you to
but
them.
they are, no,
But they liked
they
it because,
appreciate it. No, they
yeah,
appreciate
they
I
seem to
and that's,
enjoy the big
yes.
thing that I did. So that
And
was
they
good.
get a
But you're
break.
right.
I
The
mean,
kids, yeah.
but having
And
your
the
kids
kids do
participate.
remember. And what's funny, okay, so there was one year that my daughter was aging out of the elementary school, like aging out of when you have Christmas parties, right? You don't do that
Yeah.
after a certain age.
Yeah.
And my son was so she was in the very last year, I think it was fourth grade or fifth grade or something when they kind of stopped having Christmas parties. So that year, my son was entering school. And so I said, you know what, Miriam, that was my daughter. I said, I'm going to take Truman's Christmas party this year. So you're going to have to let the other moms. And she was like, what? You're going to let
Oh,
another mom do the party? And I was
oh
like,
my gosh,
it's
I love
fine.
it.
It's fine. Yeah.
Like, you're
So
gonna be
she
through it.
comes back for the rest of my life. For the next 10 years, I have heard the story about the broccoli tree. So some mom didn't know really what to do. So she brings in a broccoli Christmas tree, right? Where she stuck broccoli on some foam and like had the thing of ranch. And my kids never let it down. Like, you bailed on me for the Christmas party
Oh,
and we had a broccoli tree. How could you do this to
oh,
us? Y'all were over there eating chocolate, snowmen, and
oh
we
my
had a
God.
broccoli tree.
Broccoli
So that was
tree
funny.
on
Broccoli
the
tree. So
abandonment. I mean,
I
that's
know. How
amazing.
dare
I
you? So
mean, but
they
yeah,
do
that's
remember.
appreciation. That's appreciation in a different form. I think I love
Yeah.
it, you know? They
So
don't
anyway,
appreciate you until you're not in the mix. So I think that's great.
yes. And I
Um,
do I do have to be self-selective, and I tell myself I try to be not selfish about it, but I do try to put myself in an environment where my kids are and they do see because you know someone had asked me once, could you help with the party for the teachers? And I
mm,
was like, are my kids going to be there? If not, I'm
right.
sorry, I really
Yeah.
can't. It's really I
Yeah.
have to prioritize the things that my kids are at, whether that's a chaperone for a trip, whether
Right.
that's like you said, helping in the classroom, whatever, but it has to benefit my kids because that's the only time I can carve out of my
Totally.
busy life. So that was the funny story about the Christmas party. But otherwise, as the kids get older, another thing I found that I want moms to listen to so much is you are able to talk to your kids about what is most important to them, right? Like when my daughter ran cross country, I would say, "Is this meet important to you?"
Right.
And then let her tell me, actually, no, mom, this is just a practice meet or this isn't in the district or what. I don't really care if you come or go. I'm going to trust her on that. And I didn't go to that
Right.
one and I didn't work stuff or did other stuff. But if she says to me, and if any of your kids say to you, mom, this football game is really important, then you go. You carve out whatever you have to do to go and be there and be dedicated and fully involved. And
Right.
then let the other stuff go. And don't feel bad about it. You don't have to go to everything. They do not
Right.
remember. Can I just tell you, their brains do not remember the
They
things you
don't
can go
remember.
to when they're 5 or 10. They just remember the big stuff. So make the big stuff count.
And ask
You
them. I
know?
think that's a brilliant tip
Yeah.
because they are old enough. Like even this morning, I did not go to my son's surf competition because it's at 6:45 and I have two other kids
Right.
to get to school and I didn't have someone to take all the things, right? And I show up to pick him up after, and of course the other moms were there. And Shane, my son, said, "Oh, she didn't even bother to show up." I'm like, "Because you said I didn't need to."
I
So you
know,
also
right?
need to take a joke. Also, I mean, that's the other part of
Yeah.
this is that our kids know that they can get us, but they
Yeah.
also can share when we need to be there. So I think
Right.
asking, I think after 10 years old, you could start having those conversations
Absolutely.
about is this part of our love language? Do you need me to show up for all these things? Because
Hmm.
we can bust our butt to get there, and
And they don't even
literally
care.
they don't even care. That's
Yeah.
happened more times than
Hmm.
not. So that's a really great piece of advice, to be communicative
Yeah.
about what is important. Is there
And
any
knowing
other
you
big
mentioned
one?
love languages, you mentioned that. That's excellent. I mean, I have asked all my kids, like, how do you want me to show up for you? I mean,
Yeah,
if it's quality time, it's quality time. If it's love, it's language, then, words of affirmation, then send them more text.
yeah,
And it's not about like, I'm so proud of you. I
yeah,
love you. It's like, duh. What's more impressive, and I think what sticks more is, even when they're little, okay, I think we forget you can still do this when you're little. I saw you painted that picture of a forest and that you painted one of those trees purple. What an interesting choice to paint a tree. That was really cool. Dang, now that resonates, right? Instead of like,
yes,
I am proud of you, I love you. We hear
right.
that, it goes in and out. Specific things that they do that you can point out. I mean, I try to think about that when I'm giving my kids a compliment. Is it specific? Does it look like I've paid attention to what they're doing? Another thing that I do with my kids that I think has worked out well, and I highly encourage other moms to do it, is talk about your job.
Hmm.
One of
Yeah.
my son said one time, this was like in elementary school, he said, my friend doesn't even know what his mom does. He said she's a lawyer, and he's like, what kind of lawyer? And the kid was like, I don't know. And so, what? Like,
I
I
know.
know we love our children. We obviously do. That's our most important thing. But we also have all these other things that we have interest in, Like for me, it's writing books, and it's working, and it's having client interactions. So I remember one time, just this year, my son is a high school football player. Obviously, all children that are teenagers are tiny little narcissists. It's okay. It's part of their growth. That is
Yes,
not a bad thing.
yes. It's
Their
not
world
you.
is
It's not you.
it's not
Don't
you.
take it
Yeah, their world
personally.
revolves around you. Right.
Yes.
And so that's all they think about is like what my life, my world, my thing. So I had to miss a game, okay, which I hate doing. It was a home game and I had to miss a game. But I was giving a really big speech that was very important to me. So I started talking about that speech months before, and I would say, I'm so excited about this
Yep.
speech. It's on the big stage. It's going to be recorded. It's going to be one of the biggest speeches I've ever given. This is what it's going to be about. I'm so excited about the speech because I get to tell doctors da 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 da. And I talked about it, and I was like, I hope it goes well, and I hope the recording goes well, and what am I going to wear to the speech? And I talked a lot about the speech. So when I said to him, son, that speech that I'm giving is on this game, he goes, oh, it's fine, you
Right.
know, but because it's your speech and it's something
Right.
that's really big. Now, if I had not said anything and I just didn't show up to his game, he'd be like, what do you mean you didn't show up to my game? What kind of a horrible mom are you? But he knew, and that what that also teaches your children when you talk about your job and what you're doing. I don't obviously, talk about attorney-client privilege stuff, but I will say, man, I've got this client and they're really in a jam, and this is the general thing that they're going through, and this is how I'm helping them. That's interesting. So most kids,
Right.
because
It
we
is.
have cool jobs.
And teaching them how to problem solve, and what about think about this or that, and then I mean also translating that to our conversations with them. And I think a lot of the same
Right,
things, and I know you are like a powerhouse at relationship building professionally. It's so fun to hear you talk about how you've applied those skills, those tools, to sharing and conversing and building that relationship with your kids. Because
right,
even though we do work, um, what I like and I pray and I hope is that because of the job I have, I'm building really solid relationship with my kids, because we
right,
are
right,
listening, we are sharing about the hard things we do, and then they get to share about the hard things that they're facing and how to solve. So I think that the talking about the work is something that um, sort of is new. Like a lot of women have shared that sometimes we were wanting our kids to think that we don't work even though we do work. Like there's this
hmm,
tension. Like, and I
right,
remember,
right.
my daughter told her preschool teacher in her share and tell that I was a baker because I love to bake.
Oh,
And
that's
the
so
woman looked up
cute.
at me like, I thought you were a lawyer. And I said, she doesn't
Mm,
know. And so that was my trigger to sort of start talking about even at that
Right.
early age, that, oh, mom helps people and I help people get to the doctor. Like how you
Mm-hmm.
talk about your job, though, is a little tricky. But your kids,
Yeah, it
once
can
they
be
get old
tricky.
enough, and get them in the know. I think that's a really brilliant way to help them also get buy-in to why we can't be at everything all the time,
Right, right.
you know?
I think it also, they are, I mean, everything you do models for your kids. So when they, what if they walk in and overhear a client or someone, an opposing counsel, like being really aggressive or angry on the phone, and you're the one that's calming it down, and they hear that, they're going to go, oh, you don't have to respond with anger. You can you can argue a certain way or be a calming force. Everything we do is modeling. So I think of that. Like whenever I get a random call that is for a number to call, it's a client blabbing on and on, and the kid hears part of it. I'm like, how I react to this
Mhm.
is so meaningful because they are watching like a
Yeah,
hawk. And a lot of
definitely.
times when my kid comes home from school and says, "You'll never guess what this kid said," they are such an idiot. They said da da da, or they were so mean, blah blah blah. The first thing I always say, I go, "What do you think that's all about?" And it's coming because I have a mantra. And he goes, "Yeah, yeah, I know what you're going to say." I go, "That comes from insecurity. The
Hmm.
reason that they're so mean is because they're struggling or they're
Yeah.
mirroring something that their parents did or they don't know how to express it any differently. So have compassion on them." So if you can kind of work through those things, and I think in our profession, it's very stressful. It is, right? I mean, there's no
Yeah.
way around it. We are in a, nobody calls the lawyer to chit chat. I always say, nobody calls me
Yes.
to just talk about
Yes.
recipes. So when they call the lawyer, something has gone wrong. And
Yeah.
so we have to deal with that stress every day, every day. And so how do you learn to not let it affect you? Because your body just feels stress. It doesn't think, oh, that's not my stress, that's the client's stress. Or, oh, that's
Right.
not my stress, that's this other thing. It just floods with just cortisol coming from everywhere. So I think part of our job is to learn how to regulate that and teach our kids how to regulate that
Totally.
because we can't,
How
everything can't be running from a bear.
it's not. And but I think how over the course of your experience as a mom and a lawyer have you managed your cortisol levels? Like what are things that you do that might resonate with others about, manage, I mean, writing might be part of that, but what are other things that you
Mhm.
recommend that have worked for you?
When I get flooded too much, I have to go and put my face in the sun. I know that, I'm a Southern girl and we have a lot
Yeah.
of nice weather, but you have to get that vitamin D back in your body.
Yeah.
Getting your feet on the soil and just walking even can clear my mind like nothing else. Just getting outside, going for a walk, even to the mailbox and back. I don't care how far it is, just getting outside, separating from it. Writing is helpful for me. I know everyone has their sort of side project, but writing isn't just helpful like as a release. I actually can't process things unless I write them. Like
Wow.
when
Okay.
people say speak it, I'm like, I don't know, it's all jumbled usually, but when I write it, it's very clear. So most of the time when I'm struggling with something, it could be in the middle of the day where I've got in between meetings, my kids are doing, there's 100 things. I've many, many times just stopped in the middle of my day, opened up a blank Word document, and just started writing out my feelings. I'm
Wow.
so angry about this thing. I'm so frustrated. This is how I'm feeling. I don't think this is fair. I've written them in the form of letters. I've written them in the form of poems. I've written them in the form of, just gibberish, a Facebook post. I mean, if you're Facebook friends with me, I apologize because I'm writing all the time on Facebook, everything and thought and
I
feeling.
love it.
And it's because it is for me a way that stress, that I can release stress. Other people have different coping mechanisms.
Yeah.
But I mean, can we just stop saying take a bath or get a massage? Like, we're not all going to just drop everything, take a bath and get a
Who has
massage,
time for that? I mean, I
No
have like
one.
no one. I mean, I love the outside walking and nature is helpful for me, but sometimes I just make a cup of tea and sit in a chair without my computer. And I
Yeah,
sometimes I can't even make it to 5 minutes because I want to go
right,
back to the thing, but you got to find what works for you with the time you have. The other
right.
thing that I've really been encouraging people in a difficult dynamics and with the kind of stress that we live with is daily doses. You got to
Mm-hmm.
find
Mm-hmm.
something daily. And honestly, I might borrow your Starbucks behind me trick because I feel like that will decompress me,
Yay!
like
Yeah.
that. Well, when I look back at my day, I always say I want to be singing when the day is done, right? I want
Mm-hmm.
something in the course of the last 12 hours to just bring that, just an insurgence of joy or something. And you got to find the one thing, whatever does it for you. I think having daily minute or two? Like, is this something that I see a lot of women who handle this job with grace and more calm than I do? I feel like that's kind of part
Yeah.
of their practice, you know?
Well, I think if I were to pick one thing that helped me the most, and I want to use the word very carefully because this word I think encapsulates it the best is perseverance.
Mm,
If you had developed a heart of perseverance, it is not one overnight. It takes many years to develop true perseverance. So you have to think of your life um, as a long journey, as a long marathon, right? It's not about this day because this day might suck. This day might be really hard. You might get the diagnosis. You might be yelled at. You might get ill and you're beaten down and your kid has a fever and the dog vomits and all those things. That is a bad day. But your life, it has so much promise and you have so much more to live. So many, many days that I had, it was a bad season. You have to think things as this is a season and there's going to be a difference. The long term is not going to be this way. And that is where that perseverance comes in. It's earned. You think I've gotten through, look what I've gotten through
right.
in the past. I made it through that. I made it through this. I made it through that. So now I'm kind of like, there's hit me, right? What are you
Right.
going
Bring
to
it.
put in my way? Bring it. Yeah. What
But I
can you
think,
throw
though,
my
that
way now?
like lawyers don't necessarily sit in their accomplishment much, though. Like, we're moving on to the next thing versus I think honoring the season
Mhm.
passage that you've
Yeah,
endured and you're building up the perseverance is, something that I also think we have to promote with young lawyers, young mothers,
absolutely.
to
I
just
agree.
remember, like, when you have a great day, like, literally, this is maybe not an embarrassing tip, but I used to get those stars and put it on the
Oh,
calendar as a
that's
positive
cute.
day, because sometimes there were days that just completely did bomb, especially when I
Yeah,
had 3 kids in 3 years. It was insane. Like, I don't even know how many diapers I
yeah,
changed, all of it. But when I had a good day, to do something to honor and recognize that, so that when you looked back, maybe there were 5 or 6 in a month, maybe more, but just at least relishing momentarily in the accomplishment of a good moment, or wow, I really felt like I parented that situation.
hmm
We
hmm
don't do that. Like, I mean, we're moving on to the
Well,
next.
and we okay. So we're herd people, right? Us women, we need our tribe around us. We do
Yeah.
not thrive alone. That is not how it works. You ask men who their best friend is, and they say their wife. You ask a woman, and they're like Jenny.
Right, right.
I mean, like we got our people. We do not
Yes.
need a man to be
Yes.
our best friend. Now, sometimes they are, but so let's do that for each other more too,
Yeah.
right? Because you don't see it in yourself. You might be like, finally, a day that didn't suck, because it's easy to go negative. Our body always goes to
Oh,
the negative. That is just the way, it's way we're wired. It's just kind of
I
like,
know.
well, I guess I'll survive this. But I got a text. I mean, I've encouraged this. I foster it. That my friends are this way. It's like build your tribe to be supportive of your wins as well as
Mm-hmm.
your, and to always be there lifting each other up. I just got a text from a friend just yesterday, and I haven't heard from her in a while. You know how it is with friends. You're busy. She's a lawyer. We're all have our careers in life. And she sent this text message that was like, I just want you to know how proud I am of you and look how far you've come. And like, I know this hard thing you're going through, but I just want you to see what I see. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh,
Oh
that
my
was so
gosh.
like we need to do that more because it meant so much
Yeah.
to me for you to say to that mom that's struggling. And when you were going through that, Carrie, for another mom to be like, this is what I'm seeing in you.
Right.
I saw how you did this and this, and look how you got over that. And I know you don't see it, but I do. I
Yeah.
mean, that gives you such the wind that you're like, oh my gosh, I guess I'm not screwing up
Totally.
royally,
When
you know?
it doesn't, it builds your perseverance. Like,
Yeah.
because that is like, those are like the building blocks of that, the essence of that I think are critical to getting up the next day and doing it all over again. Because
And and
that's
Carrie,
the
we
hard
have
part.
got to stop comparing ourselves. It's enough. Today's the
Mm.
day. I mean, you're listening to this. Today is the last day that you're going to go. But I'm not. But I could never do what Amanda did because
Oh,
I
yeah.
could never do what Carrie did because I would. But just we've got to
Stop.
stop being the
Yeah.
victim and saying I can't do that or I'll never be as good as that person because that game is a loser. You're
It's,
never going to
I
get there
mean,
with that.
it's not productive. I think it's boring. Also, if I'm being very honest, like, that is
It's
a
boring.
boring game.
Yep.
And I think what I have started doing, and now that I just turned 50, so I have 0 Fs. Okay. I'm doing everything I ever
Right,
wanted to
girl, me
do.
too.
I'm TikTok. Okay. I'm going for it. And my whole mantra is like, what else do I want to do? What else? And so I think shifting that into whatever else is that you think you might want to do. And I am not a perfect visualizer, but I think people that have done that, a lot of my friends really love that and like mapping it out and writing it down. But and also just going forward and not looking back at the negative of what I haven't done so far or yet or ever. I think that is a really toxic mindset that especially limits moms that are exhausted and beat down. And look, a lot of us, I'm been reading this article from the ABA on the motherhood penalty, right? And I personally feel like I've been very blessed in my career. My business partner is a dad, and he has supported me being, I don't feel like I've had that penalty. I've been held up and encouraged to be the mom I want to be. And I know I'm very unique in that essence, but we have to continue to push through that. And it's not always easy because there is a huge burden on what moms are expected to do, especially moms that have high
Well,
powered jobs.
let me give you a little tip. Outsource every possible thing to the moms, okay? That you can. Let me give you an example. Does your kid see you? Back to the thing about don't do things at school unless your kids see you doing it. Do they
Yeah.
see you doing dishes and laundry and all that? Maybe. Sometimes they do. But I hire someone. I used to be embarrassed about it. I'm not embarrassed anymore. And like you, I am 50, so I give two craps about any of this
Yeah,
anymore.
let's go.
I hire someone to come into my house every week, and I don't know how to do laundry. It's like it escapes me. I don't know. I have no skills. This is how I do laundry. Let me tell you, the world is learning. I put it in the wash, then I put it in the dryer, and then it goes on the floor, and I stare at it like it's a
Yeah.
foreign object. I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
What are you supposed to do with this?
What do we
Put
do
it
with that?
away? I
What
don't have
happens
time for that.
next? Yeah.
What happens next? Right? And it's like, I don't know. It just sits there until somebody takes care of it. Like, who is coming? No one's
Yeah.
coming. So I hired this woman, and she does my laundry every week. It's
It's
beautiful. It's
wonderful.
brilliant. She also picks up my house. So when my kids come from school and the house is magically clean, right? Because I have decided that is a priority for me. Self care for me is having
Yes.
her come do all of those things. Yeah.
1,000%.
It's not a bath. It's not. I don't want a massage. I don't want a steak dinner. I want my kitchen to be clean. And
Yeah.
since now I'm a single again, and I don't have a partner to help me with that, I hire that out because I
Yeah.
can, and I'm blessed to be able to do that every week. I hire that out. She comes just picking up. I'm not saying I need someone to scrub, and I just want it to be picked up,
No.
right? Just that's it. Just I want the
Peace,
dishes to
though.
be in the dishwasher. It
That
gives
is
me
a
such peace.
peaceful thing. Yes.
It's
And I think
and
that,
what then you can do is like if I'm going to do anything for my kids, I'm going to make homemade food that they remember, that
yeah.
creates memories for them. That is, I'm going to spend time. I'm not going to outsource that because
Yeah.
that's they're going to remember. So y'all
But
need
and
to
that
let
brings you
go and
joy. Like
outsource.
that. I mean, I'm very similar. Like I
Mm-hmm.
cook pretty much every night because that is one, I pretend like it's the last supper. Like, what if something happens to me and I die in my sleep? I want to make sure I
Yeah.
had a good meal. But I also,
Right.
that creates a moment with my family, right? That is a
Right.
moment in
Right.
time,
Right.
and there's value in that. But similarly, like I am not relaxed if my house is disorderly. So I have someone support that for me. And I used to call it, we just throw money at the problem. And right now, the problem I'm trying to solve
Mm-hmm.
is soaking up as much quality time with my kids and pursuing my
Right.
career path as vigorously as I possibly can right now. And in order to do that, you can't do all those other things. And that's part of me. And I know everyone struggles because these are tender times economically. But to
Mm-hmm.
the extent you can still maintain your sanity
Right.
doing that, do it. Like to
Even if
me,
it's 2 hours a week, if you can just scrape
even if it's
together $40
yes,
a week to hire someone
yes,
to come in just for this tiny thing, anything helps.
it changes
It really
everything though.
does.
It
And
really
look,
does
when
change
who
everything.
says that we're supposed to be these people that do all of the things? The
I
world has told us that that's
I know.
dumb. You know,
No.
and my mom used to say, that Brady Bunch show where they had like a live-in maid called
Oh,
Alice. Well,
Alice.
yeah.
Yes.
Well, my mom used to always say, Amanda, you need an Alice. So I
Oh,
got myself an Alice. That's what I
yes.
got. So it's
Yes.
great.
Yes.
But anyway,
Everybody needs
so
Alice. It's because we
outsource
just
the things that
and to
outsource the
let it
things that don't
go.
matter.
Like
Yeah.
and letting that go. I think because the other part is, and I've had women. struggle with that because they feel like that's part of what they're supposed to be
Right.
doing.
Right.
I
So
don't get it.
true.
I don't get
Yeah.
it. Like I was like, how are
Well,
you
and
going to sleep or not? Like,
it's funny because I have a I write, right, I'm a writer, so I have a Instagram called Amanda Hill Writes, and
oh,
my second husband, who was so funny, he said, you know what you should have? You should have a handle called Amanda Hill Wrongs,
oh,
because
well,
for every beautiful Instagram post, as we all know, right, there's a background of
oh,
clutter, of stuff,
oh,
of kids and dogs and running and this, and there's messy things, and you just focus on this one thing that you
I
take a picture
know.
of. So our lives are like that. You take a snapshot of a beautiful thing, but in the background, the tag's still on the back of your sweater, and like
Yes.
it's a Zoom call, and the bottom half is PJs, and like you don't see the outside
Yeah.
frame. And so we are all in that. So that's what happens when you start comparing yourself. Like I said earlier about how that's a thief
Yes.
that robs you of joy, because you just start. You don't know their story. And when people come to me and they're like, "Well, what hardships have you endured?" I'm like, "Okay, so let's back up. So you don't
Yeah.
know, there's been a lot. So you don't know their life. So
Right.
anyway, it's really, really important. You just try to focus on, the one question that I ask myself all the time is, what's the worst that can happen? Like, let's go to that worst
Yeah.
case scenario. Can I live with
Yeah.
that? Like, what if they say no? And I don't think what people realize, because my career has been so successful, and I've done so many things and started companies and all, is what didn't work.
Right.
It's like an iceberg. So many things didn't work, but you don't see those. You don't see the manuscripts that didn't work, or the
Right.
companies that never launched or that did and flopped. So I think that's important for people to realize, like, okay, so that didn't work.
Yeah,
So
but you gain perseverance. But I think that underlying
yes,
theme for this entire discussion, and even going back to when you were at the VA and telling them, "Hey, I can get a 10-year lawyer job. Like, don't worry about it." Like
don't
that,
worry
because
about
you
it.
started building up that perseverance, right? Like
Yeah.
but you have something innate within you. So I do want to just gently go back to that woman that walked into the VA and learn a little more about how that
With paint on my
approach
arm,
was
by the
born.
way.
Oh,
I was painting my house when they called me for the
oh,
interview, and I came in and I was talking with my hands,
oh,
and there
you
was
had
like
paint
paint
on your
all.
arm.
Yeah, I did, and they were like, "Is that paint on your arm?" And I was like, "Oh
Oh,
my gosh, yes." I was painting my living room just yesterday. I'm sorry, and I think they were like,
oh
"Wow, you're
my
such a strange
goodness.
person."
But that's
Um,
authenticity right there. But I just want to know
yeah.
how that girl got that, whatever that perseverance is at that point, or to go in believing that
Hmm.
you could do anything, quite honestly, even a job like
Well,
that.
this I credit. I mean, I think I credit my parents for this, because they were really, they were kind of one of those. Well, of course you can do whatever you want. You why would you not? They never doubted me. They always just kind of acted like it was a foregone conclusion. And
Yeah.
I remember, and this wasn't, and this is something that's probably innate in me, but not that you can't grow it. But I remember one of my first jobs. I was working in this like dumpy job, and I wanted more money because I was in high school and needed gas and all this stuff. So I saw an ad in the paper, like the actual newspaper, for a
Yes.
cake decorator. And I'm Martha, so I was all, cake
Yeah.
decorator, that sounds fun. I want to go do that. So I interviewed for this cake decorator. It made like 12 an hour. I don't know. It was like $1 billion to
A
me.
lot of
Like
money. Yeah.
whatever. Yeah, a lot of money. I was like, I'm gonna be the cake decorator. So I walked in there and interviewed with a woman named Pat, and she said, "Well, have you ever done cakes before?" And I was all, "Absolutely," because I did one for like a neighbor. And I was like, "Yeah, I do. I decorate cakes." And she said, "Do you know how to make roses?" And
Mhm.
I remember thinking, "Yeah, sure do." And I actually said the word. Why would I interview for a cake decorator job without knowing how to make
Wow.
roses? And she
Okay.
goes, "Oh, well, okay,
Okay.
come in tomorrow for an interview." So I rushed to the craft store and I bought all the books on cake decorating, and I spent 3 or 4 hours that night learning how to make roses.
Oh
So
my
I just
gosh.
kind of, that's how I got
Yeah.
that job. Got
Yeah.
it. But I think that is, you just do it, right? You just go in and you go, yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
And when I started my firm, the biggest fear was, I'm not an expert. Who am I to say? Why would people call me? I'm just a, whatever, 10-year lawyer. I'm a 15. I'm just this. I don't have that. You just do it.
Yeah.
You just go in and you go, I'll learn it. I'm smart.
Yes.
I'll figure it out. So I figured it out. I made roses. I went in there and got the
You
job. I
yeah, you
went in
and
with
you
paint in my
continue to
arm.
make roses, right? I mean, I feel like that's, your
Yeah.
career it, in reinventing yourself or figuring out new skills, new roles. I mean, I know that entrepreneurial fear very well. And, once you can overcome the self doubt and quiet those voices, like you can really do
Yeah.
anything. So you're very lucky your parents kind of instill that in you.
I
When it
think
comes to
that
your,
plus, for me though, besides just like I'm grateful for that upbringing, but my faith is probably the biggest thing that drives me forward. I feel that inside there's like a timing of all that. Like our lives are very short, very
yeah,
short. Like in the scheme of the world, we're not here very long. So every day you have this beautiful gift to have one day to make a difference somehow,
yeah,
in some way. And are you going to waste it? That's why I don't, it's like I don't want to waste any time.
yeah,
And so if you're here for a finite period of time and you've been given guardianship over these children, and you have this life and you don't want to, and you've already nearly died a couple of times, so that's
right,
coming.
yeah, yeah.
And so it's like
That's a
I
guarantee.
do very much. You said earlier, this is might be my last meal, kind of thing.
Hmm.
Well,
Yeah,
any day might be, and I don't. That's not like live like it's the last day is cliche, because if we lived like a last day, we would like eat chocolate cake all day and go to Vegas. I
right,
mean, that's
right. No,
silly,
there's some
but we
moderation in it.
yeah, but we do need to be mindful of like I am not going to waste this life,
Right,
because if I'm in the ground, I can't say these things. So I have to say them now. I have to do them
right.
now. This is the only time. So I'm looking for someday my books will probably, hopefully get published, and that'll be a different trajectory in my career. I'm excited about that. I just finished my memoir. My agent's trying to get a deal on that,
Amazing.
but one of these days it'll launch when it's ready. But part of
Yeah,
it, the perseverance, is just having the patience to wait until the right time for whatever it is. Your kids will launch, your projects will, someday it'll work out. But a lot of it is just waiting and trusting that
right.
every day that you put in is not a waste of time.
I think that's really important perspective for people to process, because I do think how busy we are living this life, you can lose sight of that quite
Yeah.
often. Um, and I think, especially going through everything you've gone through in your life, to still come out of it with such a positive outlook and attitude is really just a testament to your goodness. And so I really just, I feel so fortunate that I would never have met you if this podcast didn't exist and Kara didn't
Oh, thank
suggest that we
you.
connect. And these are the moments when I'm really just filled with so much gratitude, for you just trusting me and sharing, your story so deeply. I do want to be give you just one more. I feel like we could definitely talk a lot more, but I also want to be cognizant of our time together, and just wanted to know, from your parenting perspective and the impact you've had on your children, what of this journey, or what stories might be appropriate to share about your kids and how they think and see you, and sort of what their have they ever shared anything about their experience being your child, knowing that you're such a badass out there in the world doing all these things. Have they ever shared anything, or that would help us get a little hopeful for the future as our kids kind of grow into their ages?
Well, humor is a huge value in our household. So
Mhm.
I really encourage you to make light of a lot of things. It's a good release valve. We laugh a lot, we make fun of each other. The vibe is very fun. But one of the things they say about me is, I'm very extra. That's what they call me, right? I can
Yes.
go overboard decorating for a party, or, doing all the, whatever I do it like 100%, everything. So we have a scale that they jokingly call the Amanda scale, right?
Oh
Which
boy.
is, if I go 100% Amanda, like people are going to be scared. That's a fancy part. Like that's expensive. Okay, 100%
Okay.
Amanda is expensive. So whenever I throw like a birthday party for them, or whatever, we talk about what percentage Amanda do you want me to be.
Oh wow. Okay.
And
This
so
is
like
really
when
good.
when, when my daughter was like early teens, and kind of in that phase where like I think you're going to kind of scare my friends because I don't really know how you are. They would say like, I need you to only go 25% Amanda on this one.
Oh,
And I was like, 25%? Like that's like
what
setting
is
out
that?
pizza and soda and like walking off. She's like, exactly. That's what I
Yeah.
need from you. I was all, okay. So
Okay.
guess what? That's what I did. I didn't push myself. I was like, oh, but you really want a Pinterest worthy part. No, she wanted me to go 25%. So I was like, got it. Pizza, soda,
Right?
chips, I'm out. I'm going to sit in
Eh,
the other room
that
and
is
do my
amazing.
thing. But then other times she would say, Mom, for this graduation party, I
Mm.
want like 80% Amanda.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
all,
Okay.
wow, okay, okay.
Yeah.
I know, like I'm
Let's
excited.
go.
So, we jokingly have a scale. So every event, everything, always like, how much Amanda do you want?
Yeah.
But my kids have agency, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yep.
Is if they don't want that, their needs matter to me.
Right.
And so they can say that. I don't want you to do that. And I'm like, okay, I have to honor that. So I think that's a joking thing that we do is
That's a
what
great,
percentage Amanda.
but I think again, going back to like the level of communication intentionality behind that Amanda scale, right? And I'm
Mm-hmm.
really proud of you for doing the pizza, because those are moments when I have small deaths, right? Of like, oh, but then it's
I
also
know.
respecting who they are and want to become in the process. So I think, because
Right.
I think there's extra mom desire when you're not with them all the time. Like a birthday is a big
Mm-hmm.
deal. That is my
Mm-hmm.
chance to show my kids how much they mean to me. But if they only want 25% of me, you got
You
to
back off.
respect that. I'm
Yeah,
impressed.
you
I'm
do.
impressed. I'm writing that one down. I'm writing that one down.
Write it down.
Is there
25% Carrie.
25% Carrie? Any other like tips for like the Motherhood Academy? If you were had to create some
I
curriculum,
mean,
what else should we
I just
include?
want
Any other
I want you
tips?
guys to forgive yourself. I mean, we all make mistakes. Okay, moms make mistakes. We yell. We raise our voice. I mean, you've got to forgive yourself and say, yeah, that was hard. That was a bad day, or I made a wrong decision. But I'm going to own it, and I'm going to wake up the next morning with the reset button because and the whole like, self compassion. There's all these buzzwords, but it's like you really have to do it. You have to
Yeah.
say to yourself, I screwed up. I admitted it. I shouldn't have yelled at my kid or whatever, and I feel bad about it. And I'm not going to keep making those mistakes. I'm going to see what
Yeah.
triggered it, work on it. And tomorrow's a new day. And, your kids are pretty forgiving. They really are.
Yeah.
One little slip up is not going to ruin their life. You're not doing it every day. You didn't forget them at school all the time. Whatever it
Right.
is will pass.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so you just have to forgive yourself. And they're pretty
I
forgiving
love
too.
that.
Like the other day, I was late to pick up my son, and he was like, Mom, I thought you knew practice was at 5:15. I'm like, I'm sorry, I thought it was 5:30. Like, deal. Right? It's not
Okay.
the end of the world. And,
Yes.
so they get over things. And so you just have to kind
Yes.
of morph and adjust. But forgive yourself when you screw up, because we all do. And really just wake up every day with intentionality. That's really the kicker. Just be intentional with everything you do.
Yes. I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
You're
You are a
welcome.
superstar, and I just appreciate so many of the very amazing pieces of advice that you shared with everybody today. And I can't wait for your books to come out. We can have you back on just to share more about that, because we'd
Yay.
love to hear. That'd be super fun to have a session to learn more about those. So thank you again. And I
Awesome.
hope you have an
You're
amazing
welcome.
rest of your day. Thanks,
All
Amanda.
right. Bye.
Awesome.
You've been listening to The Mothers-in-Law with Carrie Fogliani. Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you found the insights and stories shared helpful as you navigate your own journey. I also hope that you enjoyed listening to my mother. Not that I always do. For more resources, to connect with the community, and to continue exploring how to align your personal and professional life, visit www.themothersinlaw.com. We appreciate you.